together to build community, to recognize the God in each other, the Spirit in each other. And then there's the rest of the week. Sometimes we forget. Okay, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I forget. And so I know that this morning I'm going to hear something that's just for me. And I know that each one of you here this morning is going to hear something that's just for you. And whatever it is that you hear, that is going to support you in remembering throughout the week that divine connection, that sacred connection that is always available to each one of us. So let's welcome Reverend Joy-anne up to the front as she gives us our message today, and I'm sure there's going to be some clues in there. And are you showing? I think she's going to show us something. She always has something to show us. She always has something to show us. So let's give Reverend Joy-anne a warm welcome. Woo-hoo!
Thank you. So before we begin, I did bring a show and tell. Last week, most of you that were here, most of you, I see some new faces, I told the story about a rescue kitty that I now have called Happy Cat. If you want to know the story, ask me after and I'll tell you. I am actually going to submit it to the SPCA because they receive stories, right? But I wanted to show you a picture. Can you all see it? Yeah. This is Happy Cat. And believe me, he is smiling. Very happy because he has a new home. He gets a whole lot of love, and I get a whole lot of love. So my new divine partner is Happy Cat. Just had to show you. Whoops, I guess so. Okay, ring that bell, not on purpose. All right, ring that bell. So I wanted to be the first one, if you haven't heard this yet, to say welcome, even though today is the 6th. Welcome to March. Welcome to March. Can you believe that it is already here, that March, wasn't it just Christmas?
Yeah.
Didn't we just have, where did it go? Like January and March, just like that. Oh my goodness. And so, so this whole month is devoted to the idea and the truth that we are always connected to our divine nature. It's right here within us. And so if we ever have moments when we feel lost, anyone ever get lost or sad? Disconnected, we forgot, it doesn't mean that the connection's gone. But we have the ability in our humanness to forget that there is a power for good in the universe, as Dr. Holmes says, and we can use it, we can access it, we are it. And so this month also, by the way, next week already, next Sunday is the time change. Can you believe that? We're going to spring forward. Who's ready to spring forward? Who's ready for sunny days? Okay, there you go. Yep, and then to top that off, Easter is in March. And it's at the last Sunday of this month. So we're going to be building a divine road, if you will, or a divine expression each week, adding unto that. And so leading up to Easter, and I'm calling it the sacred connection. And so today we begin by understanding, by making an opening in our heart to really understand the power that is in that connection that every one of us has. And we're going to deepen that connection, deepen into the sacred self. And I brought a friend with me that I'll be talking about in a little bit. And this is Yogananda. How many of you have heard of Yogananda? Paramahansa Yogananda. How many of you ever studied any of his readings? He has a book on meditation. This one's called The Divine Romance. Anyone here would like a divine? I know one person that wants a divine. She's raising her hand back there. A divine romance. And what he says in this book is the greatest romance you will ever have is the romance with the divine. The romance with God or spirit or essence, whatever name you want to call it. So here's something that I believe. And I believe it's a fact and not a truth. So here we go. Many of us on the planet have a fear of making a deep connection with ourselves, with the divine. Some people fear that. because we're afraid of what we might find. If we, what will this mean? Will I be like a nun? Or what? A lot of people have fear about that. And I want to share with you the science of mind perspective. So I'm going to be sharing with you 3 things today, 3 different points that are very powerful and very important in our teaching. So the first one, point number 1, and this is an exact quote from Holmes. He says this: we believe in science of mind that God is present and available to all who feel its presence. To all who feel that indwelling presence. Has anyone here ever felt that connection to the divine? Anyone here ever had moments? I bet you all have. I bet you all have, but you're just not aware. That you may not be aware. It's a feeling of peace, of calm, of joy, of peace, of harmony, of wholeness. It's wonderful. So in many cases, this is what we do as human beings. In many cases, it's our human nature seeks the answers from the outside. We turn to the world and we ask everyone outside of ourselves for our answer. Anyone ever do that? Sometimes we go to gurus. Sometimes we go to ministers, teachers, counselors.
Google.
We Google. There we go. How many of us Google when we're looking? We Google. Or we go to ask. Anyone do that one? So we seek for love, for joy, for beauty. We put on, we do all kinds of stuff outside, right? When all along this amazing, most powerful connection that we all have, we're made in, this is taught in all of the world's religions and all of the teachings. We are made in the image and the likeness of infinite spirit. Do we really live that? Do we look in the mirror and say, wow, look at you? I know a kitty cat that does that. Pets. Our beloved pets don't have a self-esteem problem, right? They get your attention. They know they're beautiful. My cat's, always giving itself a bath, and it lays, it took over the house where I live. I like it. So it's good to have a companion. So for centuries, and one of the reasons that human beings look outside themselves is because in many of the old, the old ways of doing things, we were taught that we had to jump through certain hoops in order to be saved, or in order to have an experience. You had to go to a priest, or you had to go to a guru. You had to be saved, right? And so that is just simply not the truth. And that's what we're learning. We're going to explore and learn more about how to deepen, to first understand what is that connection. And then second of all, how to go into a deeper place with that. So your whole life unfolds and you live from the inside out and not from the outside in. A lot of times if we have a problem, what we want to do as human beings, we want to put a Band-Aid on it. We don't want to fix the problem. We just want to put a Band-Aid, Abraham Hicks calls it a smiley face. We want to paste a smiley face on a situation and not really understand what is going on. We want to look outside ourselves, but it really is about us looking within. So, we believe, this is the Science of Mind exact teaching, we believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. Science of Mind point of view is that happiness is a result, so our happiness is a result of being in right relationship to that indwelling presence. And the life that is worthwhile, according to Holmes, flows from the enthusiasm. Who remembers the definition of enthusiasm? We talked about it last week. Enthusiasm. In theos. In spirit, thank you. So happiness flows, the life that is worthwhile flows from the enthusiasm that springs from the center of one's being. Now in the early 2000s, right around 2000, there was a woman who is from First Nations. And she wrote this poem, this amazing poem that I'm going to share with you, because all that she talks about in this poem is about going within, about really what's really making you come alive, really feeding your soul, really your connection to the divine. So hear these words and see what you think about this. It's called The Invitation. I shared it one time before, but I love this poem, very powerful, about what's important. So here she said, this is what she says. First Nations. Her name is Oriah Mountain Dreamer. Isn't that a beautiful name? She says, it doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, or for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or if you have become shriveled and closed from further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving, to hide it or fix it or fade it. I want to know if you can sit, if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness. Who wants to dance with wildness? One of you, okay. Dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me, she said, if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another in order to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, mine or your own, and still stand on the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after a night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside out when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. So I want to know if you truly like the company that you keep with yourself in those quiet moments of your life. And if you aren't sure, then this month's invitation is for you to move to a yes. This month asks you to deepen your connection with your sacred self. That's what we're doing this month. Jesus once said, the great master teacher said, love thy neighbor as thyself. The emphasis is on the statement, love thy neighbor. But it's important, of course. But also, do we love ourselves? Or do we beat ourselves up? Jesus was making an assumption with that statement, wasn't he? He was assuming we loved ourselves. Dr. Holmes, in this thing called You, on page 84, said Jesus spent, this is great, Jesus spent little time in negative thought. How many of us spend lots of time? Any of us? In negative thought. He spent little time in negative thought, only enough to see through it, to reverse the false sense of life with the true realization of our union with God. He would say, the Father and I are one. This glorious figure, like a dazzling light, shot across the bewildered consciousness of humanity, proving every claim he made, leaving behind him a breath of heaven, fresh air, breath of heaven, fragrant with love. As he identified himself with the source of his being, his Father, Mother, God, so you must identify yourself with that Spirit which is ever with you, always. You are never alone. That which created you is present, living in you as you. It is the divine, it is the divinity made in the image and likeness of God. I'm going to say it again. As this great teacher, as he identified himself with the source of his being, so you and we must identify ourselves with the spirit that is within us, that great, amazing spirit. But what I find is that while we may give lip service to this idea, that is not always what we do as humans. We identify with our mistakes, with our flaws, with our fears, with our beliefs, and every little thing that we do wrong. And we want to avoid looking inside, which brings us to point number 2 today, with science of mind perspective. What was number 1? God is personal to all who feel his, her, their, that, them, indwelling presence. So the second thing I'd like to share today is that you cannot run from this. Anyone want to run away from the divine? You cannot run from it. It's been there from the beginning of time. You're made out of that which is divine. That connection is always there. The key is for you to show up and to align yourself with this essence. To know, realize, express, and choose to see with the eyes of the divine. To see, to look out from the consciousness of God itself. Very powerful. So this month's call is to step into a spirituality that embraces and encompasses the fullness of our humanness, but at the same time, to see the perfection of God in us as well. So hear this. You are the perfection of God. Living out that perfection now and again in what appears to be human or imperfect ways. I am not perfect. Now I am perfectly spiritual, but does that mean that I show up like that all the time? Maybe we get a cold. Maybe we run out of prosperity or money. Maybe we get in a fight with someone we love. Maybe we hang up the phone on someone, or they hang up on us. But that perfection, that divinity is always there. It's always inside of us. This week, lots of the emails that came in, I'm on the minister's listserv. This is so interesting, so I'm going to ask you all this question. They want to know if you could describe the one thing that we teach.
Love.
Oneness.
And they wanted, like, what is the one thing that we do? What is the one thing that we do?
Connect.
All paths.
Okay. We honor all paths. What I came up with, and you've all heard this before, it just kind of popped in my mind, is that we are here to recognize and live our spiritual magnificence. We are not made, God doesn't make any garbage.
Open the door, right?
Open the door, open the heart, open the being to that truth of us. So the key is for us to show up and align ourselves with this. And it could be no other way according to Holmes. This is what he said in Science of Mind. He said, to be real and free, individuality must be created in the image of perfection, the image of the divine, and let alone to make the great discovery for itself. Sometimes in that discovery, some of us, not all of us, I'll just speak about myself, sometimes we blow it. Anyone ever mess up? Anyone ever make a mistake? I always say that's how I learn. How many of you have heard of Michael Jordan? He is arguably, did I say that right? Arguably the greatest basketball player that ever lived. Listen to what he did. Listen to what he did. He said himself, quote, I've missed 9,000 shots in my career in basketball. I've lost 300 games. 26 times I was trusted to make the game-winning shot and I missed. He messed up. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. He never gave up. He kept on going. And so this is the question. Can I make a mistake or can I blow it and still love myself? Can I laugh at my mistakes and learn from them? Can I rise up again and again and again? And if I can, like Michael Jordan, if I'm able to do that like Michael Jordan, I will succeed. No matter what happens, you don't give up. And so the question this morning for you is, can you keep on and keeping on no matter what? How many of you have heard of the great poet Hafiz? Some of you may have heard of him. Short poem by him. It's called The Vintage Man. It's from a book called The Gift. He said the difference between a good artist and a great one is that the novice will often lay down his tool or his brush and then pick up an invisible club on the mind's table and helplessly smash the easels or the jade. Whereas the vintage man no longer hurts himself or anyone and keeps on sculpting light. Beautiful poem. In this thing called you, poem says, but it is only as you let go of the lesser, that you can take hold of the greater. We have to let go of the past. Anyone here want to let go of their past? It's gone. Yesterday, whatever you did, I know someone who went to a sweat lodge. I went once, and that was the last time, because I thought I was going to die, and I felt like I did die, and then I came back to life, and I said, I'm not doing that again. It was like I couldn't breathe, and it was the very gentle, very loving person that put on the sweat. It's just me. So anyway, let go of the past. We have to let go of the lesser in order to hold onto the greater, and drop confusion. That way we can entertain peace. And only as you transcend doubt and fear that you can be lifted up the hill to the tops of the inner life. I like to say it, the deeper you go, the higher you rise. The deeper you go, the higher you rise. The deeper you go, the higher you rise. So again, point number 1, God is personal to all who feel its indwelling presence. The key is to show up and align yourself with that essence. And the last one is to let go of our littleness. Here's an example of someone who wasn't little, even though she was in kindergarten. A kindergarten teacher was observing her classroom of children while she drew. She was 5 years old. She would occasionally walk around, the little girl was 5 years old. The teacher's walking around, looking at all the children, kind of seeing what they're drawing, looking at what they're drawing, and she came to a little girl who was working diligently on this picture. The teacher said, what are you drawing? The little girl says, I'm drawing God. The teacher said, but no one knows what God looks like. The little girl, without missing a beat, she says, they will in a minute. She was that confident in her drawing. She was drawing God. If we could simply think like that and realize the only obstruction that we put between us and this divine connection, this sacred connection, are the ideas of separation, ideas that we have placed there by our own personal belief system. And we all know what a belief system is. It's a belief system, a BS system, right? Belief system. We have to let it go. So to kind of sum this all up for today, we believe here, our teaching, in a God that is a personal relationship with us. We have that sense of knowingness that right here, right where we are, the presence of God is there. And that we are asked then, we're invited, we're told, we're invited, we're pulled in that direction, following our inner prompting, to show up and align with that. Who knows how to do that? Anyone here? Y'all do. It's called meditation. How many of you like to meditate? That's how we do it. Meditation, we're going to be addressing this in our class this week on Tuesday night. It's not really a class, it's a discussion group to really look at how we can deepen that connection. And finally, the third thing is to let go of our littleness. Let go of our littleness so that we can embrace the truth of our being. We are magnificent. We are awesome. We are blessed. We are here to shine our light. And what this world needs is more lights like us to understand that, to realize that, to know that, and not in an arrogant sense, but in a deep knowing. So let's anchor that into our consciousness. right now as we bring this time to a close. I'm going to have the beautiful wings played by Rael. So we just take a moment just to recognize the presence of God, the presence of the divine that is everywhere. Omnipresent. God is everywhere, powerfully, equally present. God is the power that creates worlds, the power that creates universes, and universe upon universe upon universe. And I know that I am one with that presence. I am one with that life. And knowing that, I speak my word on behalf of myself and everyone within the sound of my voice. That I am here to deeply realize that the divine is now, always, and forever within and all around me. That I have a personal, sacred connection, always and for eternally, always and forever, connected to that which is divine. And the key is to align with that, to know that, to live that, and to let go of the smallness, to think in terms of being small in a way that I'm not good enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not smart enough, to let go of all of that nonsense and to realize the sacred connection that is always there. That we are magnificent, we are awesome, we are beautiful beings. We are sculpted out of light, created in the image and likeness of infinite spirit. And I invite you to say these words silently to yourself. There is that within me which knows this. I am not only one with this power is actually flowing through me as me right now. I am not only unified with the divine presence, this presence is my presence. It is the presence of my real and true self. And I am forever one with that life. So this week, I invite you to challenge yourself to remember that connection, to remember in every moment the sacred connection to spirit, that you are that. And you are here to express your light, your spiritual magnificence. And so I give thanks for this knowing. I give thanks for this. Thank you, Infinite Spirit. Thank you, life. Thank you for this sacred connection. May I always and forever remember that sacred connection. And I release, I let go, I let God, and we say together, and so it is. So this week, I invite you to ask yourself, how can I deepen that knowing? How can I do that? Besides meditation, is there other ways that I can deepen that? We have a song, Under One Sky. Let's sing that together.